From the beginning, the images we have created have stood like mile markers on the road of human progress. What once was is now because artists made it so. They captured a moment and made it eternal. Where did they get such power? Well, it was given to them, passed down through the ages, master to student, each building upon the other. John Stobart, one of the most accomplished artists of our time, says, "I don't think the greatest works have yet been done." And it's true, but only if the secrets are given to yet another generation. The first secret is this: it is not in the hand, it is in the eye. Follow us and we'll show you that once you learn to look at the world differently, it becomes a different world, one in which nature becomes the greatest teacher of all. On the island of St. Bart's, John Stobart shows us how to select from the infinite variety of subjects offered by nature. Then he demonstrates how outdoor painting can be a dynamic experience.
I'm really excited about coming to St. Bartholomew again. I've been here twice before, once 13 years ago when it was quiet and there were very, very few people here at all. And the last time I was here, which was 2 years ago, I'd found that it got quite crowded. But the main thing about it is that it's got a stunningly beautiful harbor and very gorgeous beaches. Well, here we are going down a pretty steep hill into Gustavia, which is the port for St. Bartholomew. Lovely view of the port coming into view. Look at that. I love that red freighter in the distance. Going down into the town. That's a nice building on the left with beautiful shutters. I had thought of using that. In fact, that might be a possibility for a foreground. One of the things that could be intimidating for the young artist is that everything is so busy. It's difficult to find, but one has to look for the simplicity of shapes and not the very busy, distant view of something, where you've got everything in the harbor. It's the little nooks and crannies that make just as much impact, but they're simpler to paint. You don't want to give yourself a tremendous, hard effort to and not be able to complete it in a 2-hour window. Now we've come down to this little area that's known for making baskets and type of thing, and here we have, suddenly, we see a nice composition with a left-hand side and a right-hand side with a balcony that you can see through, and a road going round a corner and a vessel in the distance. This is a nice balcony on the left too. So that is simple composition, and that would work. Now look at this. We were walking along the beach. We weren't expecting to see anything here. We'd see these pretty boats in the background, but when we walk up to them, look at this. This is incredible. Here's a nice sea grape here, with the island joining up this nice left-hand side. Very, very colorful subject matter here. A headland on the right with another little piece of foliage coming in. This is a beautiful, unexpected shot. Now here on our discovery of St. Bart's, in a continuing journey we're making, we've come across this lovely little bay called La Petite Bay, and here's a lovely little promontory, a very beautiful rock covered with greenery and houses, and there's a little street there. But just because it's beautiful, it doesn't necessarily make a nice painting. It doesn't really have anything definite to say, or it doesn't invite the viewer to something fantastic that you want to show. Now here's a really simple lesson in composition. A tree with the horizon going right through it, the tree going all the way up through the left-hand side, and a small bushy top tree, they're both the same type, on the right-hand side, framing the interest in the distance. That's very simple and would not be a difficult thing for a beginner. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? Have to have one of those. This is it. Now all the others that we've seen had great qualities, but this one has something a little bit different. It has a little magic to it. Well, I'm just establishing where everything is. Got to establish that tree. That's the most important thing in the whole composition. Establishing that, where that is. Yeah. I'm basically getting the drawing in. The whole thing is to draw it in. I want to get the drawing just right. That little peak is right there. I want to try and get as close as possible to what I'm going to do finally. Now, the height of the mountain is just a little, to the bottom of the canvas is just a little more. So this is the edge of this is the bottom edge of the middle distance there. Some very lush palms right in the middle. The painting, which will have to be simplified. I'm just measuring the top of the mountain, should be about there, and there to there, and there to there. We can go up a little more. I want to get as much of this beach in as possible, so I've decided to change my idea of where that mountain should be. It should go up further, even though it means that this is going to break the top of the canvas on the right. Because I think this landmass here should be have more depth and be a little more major in the composition than I'd previously decided on. So I'm going to put it back in. Like so, which is quite a bit higher than I had originally intended it to be. That's better now. It's already looking, it's looking better now. What I really like about the middle distance there, that hill, is very, very important to the composition. It's a lovely left-hand interest. And it nicely cups all those trees. It nicely cups that grove of coconut palms there. I like that little promontory there very, very much, with a little red roof on it. That's perfect for the left-hand interest. What I especially like about this is the row of houses on this hill. I'm just going to put those in little dots here so that I know where they are. They're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are some further up the hill here, and they lead the eye right back to the core of the composition, which is right here. This is going to be the core of the composition where all these bright colored sails are. St. Bartholomew is an island in the West Indies, which is a string of islands beginning just below Florida with the Greater Antilles, and those are Cuba, Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico. Then the islands turn south in what they call the Lesser Antilles, and eventually come to Venezuela, where Trinidad is the last of them. Now, just to the east of Puerto Rico is the group of islands known as the Leeward Islands, and St. Bartholomew is one of those. It was discovered by Columbus in 1493 and named after his brother Bartholomew. It's a small volcanic island of only about 8 square miles, and it was one of the last of the islands to be settled as it had no fresh water. Eventually it was settled by the French in the late 17th century, and it lies some 15 miles east of St. Martin's and is a dependency of Guadeloupe. Now, having established this so far, I'm going to put the color of the sea in, and here we have almost cerulean, and we'll try and get as close to cerulean as possible without using cerulean. And when I mix color, I don't like to completely mix it. I like to see the elements of the colors on the canvas. I don't want to see a plain color. I love to see little bits of white and little bits of blue and little bits of this if I'm mixing those together. I don't like them to be all mixed up so that they are just one flat tone. Now, there's a slight promontory on the left there, and the water behind that is a little darker because it's further under the distant hill, so that would be right there. And slightly nearer, we're coming slightly nearer, we'd be doing thus and so. Right under that, that's a beautiful promontory right there. That's going to look really great. Now, underneath, offshore, there are some reefs, coral reefs, and they're making it look dark, and there's almost a little bit of purple in there. So in we go with that here. But as we come to the foreground, the sand underneath the water is getting closer to the surface, and it's beginning to get rid of the cerulean look, and it's more of a slightly grayer look, but that needs to be very, very colorful at that point. Being here on the beach with the crowds walking about and interesting looking people passing me and glancing over my shoulder, it gives a sense of the vibrancy of being alive, and it's so different from the business of cooping yourself up in a little place, trying to do something from reference material or whatever. This is where it's all happening, and it's invigorating and fantastic. I think it's a good thing for people to see somebody working outside like this, because it helps our cause, because they go back and talk to people about it, their friends, and say, oh, we saw somebody painting on the beach. And that, I think, is a good thing. What you've got to remember in painting a scene like this, which has its complexities, is to use the artist's shorthand to simplify the major areas and not get carried away by the detail. We really have to realize there's a difference between the outdoor painting from nature and the studio painting, which is a more measured thing and which is going to bring in more detail because you're going to be describing things. Out in the nature, though, you're going to try and get more poetry into it. You've got to give the viewer some chance to appreciate the way you paint. Here's a chance for you to show your personality and how you visualize something. I like young people to come by because it reminds me that art has no language barriers, and these two young people, aren't they lovely? They can watch me doing this and probably get the sense of something that later on in their life they'll pick it up and they'll think, oh, I remember being on that beach and seeing somebody do a painting. I think that'd be if I can get that across, that'd be terrific. What you've got to remember is that you've got to leave something for the viewer as well. The viewer needs to participate in the painting, and if you give them photorealism, then there's nothing for them to think about or nothing for them to get into. The thing that attracts their attention is the fact that they want to participate in all these brush strokes, and they like to see how it's done.
I was wondering, why did you start, if you start by the bottom and then you paint the top of the picture? Or?
What I'm doing is I've left the sky because I'm not happy with how it looks yet.
Oh,
When something happens, I'll paint it right from nature, you know, which is better than thinking about it and dreaming it up, you see. So I want to get this established, and then I won't put these trees in here, the palm trees, until I've done the sky behind them. I like that little headland there with the little red house on top. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. One of the features here that probably wouldn't be apparent to most people is the way that the sand and the sun on the sand creates a lot of bouncing light. The light bounces right off the sand into the underneaths of all these trees, and there's an awful lot of reflected light going on here. Right now I'm trying to get a little texture into the beach. There's a part of the beach that is walked on and a part of the beach that the breakers keep smoothing out, and there's a definite change right in the middle with a little bit of seaweed going along it. And if you can just get a little bit of that, it'll give the nature of it. And it's those little things that are important to get, even though I'm trying to keep the thing broad and not get it too detailed. Isn't that wonderful? One of the main reasons for picking this spot is that terrific thrill we get every few minutes here of a plane taking off. I just can't wait to watch those. And it reminds me of my boyhood days when we couldn't wait to get home from school and make models of World War II planes. That was the big thrill of my boyhood days. Beautiful. Of course, what I actually learned from making the models was much greater than I thought at the time. I was learning construction of the actual body of the plane, the way that they were constructed and the aerodynamic qualities and the form. And it was a great learning experience to learn the structure of something like that. That really says it all in a way, because this is exactly what I'm doing here, is learning about this lovely scene in front of me, to the extent that I understand exactly what's going on, where all the reflected light is coming from, and the whole thing is a learning experience. I've learned a tremendous amount just by painting this wall and those steps, and about local color and the way color bounces around in this very hot climate. to bring this painting to life, I need to put some people in it. And what you have to remember is that these people are moving all the time. And you can't get down to the accurate detail of figures. The thing is to just suggest them and not think about even doing their feet and their hands and everything. You've just got to try and put some sort of stroke there that will suggest that there's a person there. What comes to my mind is that the student, and I know this is going to happen to them, they're going to get bogged down with a lot of difficulty at first. And what you've got to realize, though, is that you've got to keep at it and get through that period, as I did. And as soon as I suddenly realized that I'd got it, I started having tremendous fun with it. And that's what it's all about, having terrific fun. Now, I've put these corks in the corners of the canvas, and they're about 1/4 of an inch deep, so that when I travel with this painting, which is wet, it won't get all messed up in the suitcase. So there will be a canvas board put over this, which will keep the area free of the things that are going to be on top of it in the suitcase. Have to remember that all the dark paint is going to have slightly lighter paint added to it or overlapped, because these trees are all overlapping, and so I work from the distance to the foreground, and so I'm imagining what's behind that other tree, and I'll put that in on top in a moment. If you really think about what you're doing, and you think about the tree swaying, and you think about the leaves, and think about all that as you're doing it, this helps to get it transferred down the brush onto the painting. Now, right now, this is at the point where I'm getting the feeling that it's been worthwhile for me to come here and do this. But the student has to know that it's not something that you can accomplish the way I've accomplished it the first time. You have to keep going out. The first one will be terrible. The second one will be a little bit better, and it will just get better and better and better until you build up the confidence so that you're able to do it and come to a nice place like this. As we come to the close in this lovely spot, what's going through my mind is that I've had wonderful experiences here painting the picture, and these people here are just walking about and looking at things. I've actually created something, and this is what's wonderful about being a painter. You can go and have all the experiences the other people have, but you can always create. You can also create something and have something that will live forever.